Let's talk about you run for president.
Yeah.
Can you be president? The argument being that you were not born in the United States. Your parents were not American citizens when you were born.
No, they weren't, actually. I saw you said that. I appreciate that you were looking for, you were almost looking out for me, but they weren't. No, I'm just
I just want to know.
Yeah.
A lot of people on Twitter were saying that the first thing that happened was we talked about your campaign. The first thing I said was, if it was between like Mitt Romney and Joe Biden, I'm voting for you.
Yeah.
And
damn right. CenkForAmerica.com.
But it's because I even donated to Nancy Pelosi's progressive primary rival because I think, she's prime evil. I would rather have an idealistic young person who's wrong than evil corporate Nancy Pelosi enriching herself through government and squeezing the vestiges of power until she dies. It's horrifying. But when this came up, Phil Labonte immediately was like, Cenk's not a naturalized citizen. He can't be president. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then what are we talking about? So explain, good sir.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm mainly in the race to make sure that Biden drops out. So I want to talk about that a lot.
We like that.
Yeah, he's at 37%. You shouldn't like that. You should be opposed to me because the Republicans and the right wing should want Biden in this race. He's the weakest possible candidate for the Democrats. He's sitting at 37% in the polling. He's down 10 points in independents, down in 5 out of 7 swing states. I have him at over 90% likelihood of losing. So if you're a right winger, you should turn around now and be like, yeah, let's go Joe Biden. Okay, whatever the opposite of let's go Brandon is. Because that brother's going to lose. There's almost no chance he wins.
I agree.
And he doesn't know how to campaign. He doesn't know how to fight for his voters. Like Mike Johnson gets elected Speaker of the House, right? I think he's extreme MAGA. I think he's a nut job in 1,000 different ways. We can get into it later. And then when the press secretary is asked about it by Peter Alexander at NBC, they get into Biden mode where they're like, well, that was in the past and we're looking forward to the future and we're looking forward to working with him. Why are you defending Mike Johnson, who's the leader of the other party? You're supposed to fight for us. You're not supposed to go around being like, and Biden says it in nearly every speech. Oh, my Republican friends, I love Republicans so much. I work so well with Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy. We've been ripping off the American people on behalf of corporate donors for decades. Wait, did I say that last part out loud? No. Okay, he didn't say the last part out loud. But even if you don't think that, even if you're the most hardcore Biden dude in the world, which congratulations, there's 3 of you. Okay, there's like no enthusiasm. I can get into that too. It's not going to change the fact that the country's not into him. Like,
what do you think about what Matt Gaetz did with McCarthy?
So that's another one that's long and complicated because I thought that there were good parts of that, and then of course disastrous parts of it. Right?
I love it.
Yeah, but let me answer your question about the native-born issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not a native-born citizen. I'm a naturalized citizen. Okay, and so everybody then goes, "Well, duh, can't you read, man? It's in the Constitution. It says right there you have to be native-born." Yeah, that's in the original Constitution, and right next to it is the clause that says that black people are 3/5 of a person. Well, can't you read, man? It's in the Constitution. It's right there, man. Yeah, but there's a thing called amendments that amend the Constitution. So that part got amended out, the 3/5 part, obviously. Tons of the Constitution got amended out. And the natural born citizen thing was amended out by the 14th Amendment. So the 14th Amendment says very, very clearly, anyone who is born or naturalized has due process and equal protection of the laws. So the Supreme Court has ruled that due process and equal protection means you have the same exact rights, and they didn't put naturalized in there by accident. They put it in on purpose. That very clearly amends the earlier part of the Constitution where naturalized citizens did not have equal rights. Now we do have equal rights. I mean, that's, again, the whole point of the 14th Amendment was to take out the discrimination in the earlier part of the Constitution. And they didn't say like, oh, born and naturalized have equal protection of the laws, asterisks, except for those goddamn naturalized citizens, they're not allowed to be president. If they wanted to say that, they could have said that, but there is no asterisks. They didn't say that. They said, no, naturalized citizens have all the same rights.
Some people brought up that there was already a recent Supreme Court ruling which basically ruled the other direction.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is not how it's going to
Yeah,
work.
so there's mixed rulings, no question. So there's, in Schneider v. Russ, they say that naturalized citizens and natural-born Americans have the same exact rights. It would be, wildly unconstitutional to treat naturalized citizens as quote-unquote second-class citizens, okay? Now, in Schneider, they mention the presidential clause, but they don't comment on it. They don't say yes or no to it. They just note it and move on, okay? And then there are decisions with this guy, Hassan, did a kind of a fake run. He's a good guy, good intentions. I imagine, I don't know him personally, but kind of did this amateur litigation, and the courts then didn't really get a chance to fully consider it. He came in with a really weak case, and so he got some rulings against him. But that is not at all definitive. And when you get into court decisions, even though the 14th Amendment is crystal clear, lawyers get in there and they're like, well, did they mean born or naturalized, even though they said born or naturalized? And then they mean equal, even though they said equal. Well, how about this case where even though it says equal, it doesn't mean equal? Yeah, we can fight that out, and we are going to fight that out. We're going to fight that out in the courts, and we're going to win.
I think you'll need an amendment.
No.
You don't? You think the Supreme
Yeah,
Court?
good news. You're right. We did need an amendment. We got one. It was called the 14th Amendment.
Well, all right.
Okay.
But do you think with the current makeup of the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
it's more political than
Okay, let's
logical?
break it down one by one. So, Tim, let me see if I can get agreement on logical and moral grounds. Okay, so should naturalized citizens be second-class citizens where we go, we don't really trust you?
Nope.
Like in the beginning, the reason they put that into the original Constitution hundreds of years ago is because back then the Habsburg dynasty was sending in princes
Right.
into other bloodlines and royalty and stuff, and we didn't want to be taken over by the Prussian Empire or the Hungarian Empire. So that's what it's an anachronism, right?
Yeah.
So like Congressman Ted Lieu's a Democrat, came here when he was 3 years old from Taiwan, grew up in Cleveland, doesn't remember Taiwan, right? He's a colonel in the U.S. Air Force. Patrick Bet-David's a right-winger, was in the 101st Airborne. His family ran from Iran during the Iranian Revolution. He's Armenian Christian. Is he disloyal? Is he more disloyal than other Americans? No way. I mean, you tell me. Do you look at those guys, Arnold Schwarzenegger, etc., and go, they don't love America enough? I bet they're going to sell us out to Austria or Iran or Taiwan.
I think you'll find Americans will do that too. I think you'll find there's traitors of this country. We had that story about the military couple selling nuclear secrets. I think what was that, like last year or whatever.
Yeah.
So in this globalized culture and world that's being built with communication technology, I think the question that comes up is you have to choose one of two directions, which is they either amend the 14th or amend the Constitution away in that direction or recognize exactly what you're saying. The issue being, what we see now is birth tourism. So based on the 14th Amendment, you have men and women in China will hire a surrogate in California to have their kid for them, so that kid is both Chinese and American. And then what? That kid's going to grow up in China and come back to the United States and be president? They're allowed to. So I think.
I mean, look, my family is a perfect example. It's not perfect in that they're not anchor babies because my sister grew up in America like I did, but she went back to Turkey. And when she came here, she wanted to have birth here more because of, not like anybody thought like, oh, these kids are going to be the president, right? No, because it's better health care, comfortable, and with her parents, with my mom and dad to take care of her. So for when she had both Hassan and Murat, my two nephews, she came back to America, where she grew up, to have the kids. But they did spend their childhood in Turkey. So Hassan actually came to America when he was 18. So
wow.
So I grew up in America, and culturally, I'm 100% American, right?
And this is my point, right? If a couple in China has a surrogate give birth to their son in California, who is then immediately at the age of 2 months brought back to China, raised completely under the CCP, and then at 35 moves to the United States and says, I'm going to run for president, I think we'd be upset with that. We'd say, wait, hold on. And for someone like Patrick Bet-David or you, I know people are going to say politics. They might not like yours. They probably like Patrick Bet-David, but you would much rather have, in my opinion, either of you who grew up in America, American culture, and we disagree politically, it's better than someone growing up in China and having a technicality allow them to be our president.
Yeah, 100%. So it's absurd to say that we are less American than the person who went and grew up in a different country. And you're not wrong. Folks come over from China, Taiwan, and have kids in LA. That's a common phenomenon. People know that. And they do that for
tourism.
And so we can argue about whether that should be allowed or not allowed, but to say that we're less American than they are is absurd. It's totally absurd. So logically and morally, everyone gets we shouldn't be second-class citizens. We should have the same exact rights. And look, I don't know if if you guys watched the Netflix show about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. So it just reinforces what I would have figured about Arnold, which is that I love America. We can get into that too, right? But if anyone loves America more than me, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'd love it if America stopped blowing up kids overseas.
Yeah. Just because. And that's another thing with the left. I love you guys, but it's okay to say that America has done 100 things wrong, and still say you love it. Okay. And for the right wing, it's okay to say you love America and still say that we did 100 things wrong. It doesn't make us like evil. It just makes us human.
I think a large component of what we're saying, this is going to open a can of worms because I'm going to bring up Israel-Palestine, but there's a video coming out of San Francisco of a bunch of students marching through the halls chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And a question is brought up is why are these kids saying this? Why is this in their mind? My reaction is not immediately like, oh, it's the left is doing this and the right is doing this. My question is, why aren't they chanting about Burma and Myanmar? When a conflict that started in 1948, 12,000 dead this year alone, has been ongoing. And I made the comment about why does everyone care so much about this? The question I have for these young people is why do they care about Palestine but not Myanmar? And it really is the information that they're consuming, where the information is coming from. And I think, as you mentioned, the media sows division. I don't so much believe that the corporate American interests are trying to cause mass fighting between left and right. I do think there's a political component of it's good to have left and right fighting. I believe more so foreign interests are hell-bent on making sure we keep fighting, especially as you've got war in Ukraine, you've got now war in the Middle East. There is a vested interest in watching the United States rip itself to shreds, which results in young people, whether you agree or disagree on their position on Palestine, being polarized in that direction.
Yeah. So a lot to unpack there too. By the way, before I get to that, which is a really important question, I should say that, look, whether you think, to finish up the earlier topic, whether you think that you're dissatisfied with Biden as an option in your left wing, or you think you're a naturalized citizen and you think, yes, God damn it, take this to the Supreme Court and be done with this thing. Let's get a decision once and for all. Chip in $1 at cenkforamerica.com is just like a protest, like, no, obviously it shouldn't be Biden. And yeah, obviously naturalized citizens should have 100% the same rights.
And right-wing personalities are rooting for you too. You said they should want Biden in the race. That's true. But a lot of people have said any dollar going to Cenk is a dollar not going to Biden. Is a dollar not going to the DNC.
Look, I even got the URL, bidenisgoingtolose.com. Okay, Biden is going to lose.com because he is. And so for me, I'm lunging at the wheel, right? Yeah. Because this
wheel of the beast?
At the wheel of the Titanic. Yeah. Because everybody's going around rearranging the chairs on the deck. I'm like, guys, the chairs aren't going to help the iceberg. The polling shows it's a goddamn iceberg and we're going to hit it. And I'm not going to join that party. Let's go back to Palestine.
Well, no, let's just do this. What are your campaign positions? What do you hope to achieve as president?
Oh yeah, so that's the other reason.
And then we'll argue about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, my positions are enormously popular, and so what's the difference between me and, let's say, a standard Democrat that might say the same things? I'm not full of crap, and they are. Okay,